I understand using recycled materials is a good thing, and I want to go in that direction. I hope brands go in that direction. I just feel like here it's like... Hey everyone, and welcome back on the channel. My name is Alex, and today we are looking at the brand new Nike Zoom Fly 5, just released in the EU. I received this shoe 2 days ago and I already have 2 runs in it, so it's a first impression video. I don't have as many runs as I usually have before doing a review with you, but I think this is a shoe that was really expected by many people, myself included, and so it's important to share some very, first initial impressions, feedback, maybe before you get it or in order for you to get it, depending on what you are looking for. Quickly, the stats: weight in my size US 11, this is 321 grams, so on the heavy side of things, and it feels a bit heavy indeed. Geometer score on the ZoomX Pebax-based foam, we're looking at 32.5 on 100, so rather in that low 30s, which is where ZoomX is most of the time on the Vaporfly, Alphafly, at least one of the layers of ZoomX, because it's like a dual layer shoes. Midsole, at least on the Vaporfly and Alphafly. Here it's the same density throughout the midsole from the top to the bottom. The outsole is very high on the geometer scale, 72 on 100. It's a very thick and sturdy outsole, which will provide for some nice durability, and also it encapsulates nicely the ZoomX midsole. I'm not sure it's necessary to have it that hard and that much of it, and I think it plays a bit of a role in the ride, but we'll come back to it in the ride section of the video. Width of the platform, nothing specific. The midfoot is actually rather narrow, which is not the case for the forefoot and the heel, that there are more in the average zone, but the midfoot is a bit narrow. In terms of drop, I don't have the metrics, but this feels to me like a 6 to 8 millimeters drop. 6 would be my guess here. Maybe something like 27-33 or 29-35, somewhere there. You don't have any ground feel at all, so it's definitely in the 30s here in the forefoot. And if you're looking for ground feel, just go look for another pair of shoes. Another metric, and you can see it a bit here. You can see here some recycled ZoomX. We already had some on the Alphafly Next Nature, and there will be some on the Pegasus Turbo Next Nature as well. This shoe contains 20% of recycled materials. The box is a bit different as well, not the traditional Nike box, and basically at the end of the process, if I understand well, they won't have 2 boxes anymore, one for the shipping and one for the shoe box. It will be just one shoe box. Even if you want to return your shoe, it will be the same box, just to cut a bit on the keyboard usage at Nike, which is good. Upper, I pretty much disagree with everything that was done here. I don't think this upper is great. I think it's actually even on the sort of bad side of things. Okay, so let's start with the good things. I think the laces are okay and they're the right size, and the tongue is okay as well. But for the rest, the material, I think it's a bit too thick, and yeah, it's hard to explain, to be honest, but it's like they put some underlays over what could have been a nice upper, and eventually it's like too much uppers, too much layers, one on top of the other. That's the material I'm not a huge fan of, and the texture is a bit weird. Some underlays are useful, like the one here that you can see yellow, and on the inside here to give a bit of structure and volume in the toe box, and you have some. But the tongue is not gusseted, and the lockdown in the midfoot and especially in the heel is really not super well executed. The heel for me was really loose. I felt like the pocket was just not designed for my feet. I don't have anything special in terms of narrow, wide feet. They're pretty standard, and I can accommodate my feet in many pairs of shoes, which is good for a shoe reviewer. But here it was just too loose, not enough lockdown. The design and the padding don't provide with any special type of lockdown either. So really, upper is, I felt like not super into it. Midsole ZoomX, it feels different than ZoomX on all the ZoomX shoes that I've experienced. Alphafly, Vaporfly, Invincible, Pegasus Turbo had some ZoomX in it. This is again something very different, and it's definitely very, very dense in terms of ZoomX. It doesn't have the same squish nor the same bounce as, for instance, the Invincible. Yes, there is a plate in here, and that plays a role as well, which may make the difference as well with the Invincible. But I think even without the plate, this would have been a denser, less bouncy, more, let's say, yeah, more structured ZoomX, if that makes sense. And it's not as fun as some other ZoomX foams, mostly because of the lack of bounce. It does have some bounce, you know, don't get me wrong, but definitely not the same amount as, for instance, Invincible or Vaporfly, Fly, which also have bounce because of other features they have. This shoe for me has, and the midsole has one major drawback, almost flaw, and that's the lack of decoupling here in the midfoot, and essentially you don't have any decoupling at all. This is more just to show off the recycled ZoomX here in the middle. It's not providing you with any decoupling, and therefore when I was running in this shoe, I really had the sensation of having one huge slab of foam under my feet that was acting as one huge slab of foam, and not like something helping me transition from heel to toe, or helping me have a bit of flex, helping me just use my foot strike and gait cycle as I would like to. This was really one very dense piece of ZoomX acting like a long board of ZoomX and nothing else, especially for a shoe that also claims to have an articulated plate, which I would understand as a plate that is not necessarily only in the forefoot or full length, but more something like the H plate on the Max Force 5, the new plates on the Tech 10X from Hoka, a plate with a shape that allows you to have a bit of articulation, and even that I think is just not expressed at all because of that very dense ZoomX here. You know, it's a shoe that can do, I think, many stuff if you enjoy that very dense, huge piece of ZoomX under your feet. I just don't think that this shoe is worth the hype that many people had around it. And this, instead of giving me hope for the Pegasus Turbo nature, makes me a bit anxious, because I understand using recycled materials is a good thing, and I want to go in that direction. I hope brands go in that direction. I just feel like here it's like mixing many things, trying to make the Zoom Fly a more loved shoe, a more, you know, soft, bouncy shoe, and it's not the case. But at the same time, it loses the snappiness and the aggressiveness of the Zoom Fly 3 and 4. By the way, my last Zoom Fly was the Zoom Fly 3, so the comparison here is more with the Zoom Fly 3, but it's not a comparison, to be honest. And so, you know, it parts with the Zoom Fly series. At the same time, it's not going in the recycling direction 100%, only 20% of the shoe. It's not going in the fun direction either. And overall, the design of the shoe makes me a bit skeptical, to say the least, especially that lack of groove, lack of decoupling, and lockdown in the heel. Price point €150 dollars is reasonable, but if you're looking at other brands and you're looking for those plated, not necessarily carbon plated, but plated shoes that are like the up-tempo, you know, training shoe coming with a racing shoe, if you will, Boston 10, even Adios 6, if you consider it a plated shoe, it has a plate in it, or Endorphin Speed, Magic Speed 2 from ASICS coming up very soon, Vanish Tempo, you know, all those sort of shoes in the up-tempo space, plated or not. I think most of them will be most likely working better for a vast majority of us than this shoe. Let's see, I'm gonna give this a second chance, or, you know, a third and fourth, and see in a few weeks, months, if I do a follow-up video with it, because I think it has some stuff that needs to be addressed, and maybe it needs to be broken in a bit more. Let's see. I'm intrigued, and at the same time I'm disappointed. I cannot hide it. I'm being transparent as always. I hope you enjoy this. Enjoy your run today. It's a bit late here, so if you're on the US side of the world, enjoy your run today, enjoy your ride, and go beyond your limits during the week that is starting. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.